Hello, my fellow chatterers and book lovers, and anyone else who's popped in because you're curious about what this is or you have got a bit lost. Welcome everyone. I'm Chatty, welcome to my channel, Chatty the Mad Chatter, and I'm going to be chatting away madly about being serious about my series. So I'm going to be going through where I kind of left it in my last video, which was the end of June. So this year I've done kind of the first half of the year and I'm now going to do the second half of the year. It is currently, what are we on today? The 23rd of November. So almost the end of the year, but not quite. But I want to do it now because I've got loads of other videos that I want to be doing sort of for the end of the year. Next season, year, I am hoping to go back to doing it termly, so there'll be 3 videos, and I want to come up with a better system of kind of like checking in how well I'm doing, where I kind of sort of like lose points for starting series, but I earn points for progressing with series even if I don't finish them, like, so it kind of like reflects the work I'm doing on series, and kind of like makes it all more accountable. So yeah, we'll see if I can come up with something to help with that. But for now, I'm just going to kind of go through where I was at the end of June, beginning of July, and kind of where I've got to now and what I'm hoping to work on for sort of like the last few months. So I'm going to start off there. How realize I haven't done my little shot. Here we go. So on this channel, it is one shot. There is no editing. I'll just be using the power of pause to help me, and that is it. So cheers everyone. Clink, clink, clink. Let the chaos commence. So I'm going to go through now what my series looked like at the end of June, beginning of July.
And I can just about get it in one shot. So I have already made one change. There should be 24 books here. There are 23. I have decided to not include the Brown Sisters as a series I'm working on. I will talk about that in my finished series thing. So starting off here at the bottom, I have got Oathbringer, which is the 3rd book in the Stormlight archive to read. I've got Maya Angelou. This is Gathered Together in My Name, which I've read. I need the 3rd book in her biography series. I have got The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. I am waiting to feel able to download the Andy Serkis audiobook to finish off that series, because I have already read it, but I wanted to hear it with the Andy Serkis audio, and I ran out of my free audio book trial. I then have Ken Follett's 2nd book in his Knightsbridge series. Currently got 5 books now in that series. The next book I need to read is World Without End. I read Pillars of the Earth. I then need to read The Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynne, the 2nd book in the Bloodsworn saga. I need to read Danger at Dead Man's Pass, which is the 4th book in the Adventures on Trains series by Sam Sedgman and M.G. Leonard. I need to read the 2nd book in Becky Chambers' Wayfarer series. So I can't remember the name of it. I think it's I can't remember the name of it at all. The 1st book is A Long Way to a Small and Angry Planet. I need the 2nd book. I need to read The Hollow Hills by Mary Stewart, the 2nd book in the Merlin Trilogy. I need to read The Shadow Cabinet by Juno Dawson, the 2nd book in Her Majesty's Royal Coven series. I need to read Onyeka and the Rise of the Rebels by Tola Okagura, the 2nd book in the Onyeka series. I need to read the 2nd book in the Lizzie and Bell mysteries, which is Portraits and Poison by J.T. Williams. I need to read A Sprinkle of Sorcery, the 2nd book in the Pinch of Magic Quartet by Michelle Harrison. My camera is really struggling to focus on that book there. Okay, I need to read A Country of Light by V.E. Schwab, the 3rd and final book in the Shades of Magic trilogy. There is now a 4th book out, but I'm stopping at the trilogy. I need to read Akawa, the 3rd book in the Court of Thorns and Roses quartet by Sarah J. Maas. I need to read The Secrets of Stars. I've got The Ship of Shadows here by Marie Kuznia. I need to read what's it called? Concrete Rose. I need to read Concrete Rose, which is the prequel to The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. I need to read The Lady of Mysterious Ailments, which is the 2nd book in the Edinburgh Nights trilogy by T.R. Huchu. I've read The Library of the Dead.
I need to read Thunderhead, the second book in the Arc of a Scythe. I need to read The Battle of the Labyrinth, the fourth book in the Percy Jackson and the Olympians series. I need to read A Sky Beyond the Storm, which is the fourth book in the Ember and the Ashes Quartet by Sabaa Tahir. I need to read Harry the Ninth by Tamsin Muir, the second book in the Locked Tombs series. I need to read Bloodmark, the second book in the Legendborn cycle by Tracy Deonn. And finally, I need to read the Crackledawn Dragon, which is the fourth and final book in the Unmapped Chronicles series by Abby Elphinstone. This is Rumblestar, which is the first book. So there we go. That's where I was in June. And here's my series which are up to date as of the end of June. We have Hollowpox, The Hunt for Moroccan Crow. I'm waiting for the fourth book, Silverborn by Jessica Townsend, which will hopefully be out in the autumn of 2024. I have read Iron Widow by Zero and J. Zhao. I'm waiting for the second book, hopefully available this summer 2024. I am up to date with the Supernatural Bureau of Investigations by B.B. Alston. This is Amari and the Great Game. I'm waiting for the third book, hopefully released in March 2024. Only a Monster by Vanessa Len. I will come back. That's the first book. I need to read the second, Never a Hero. I'll come back to that. She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chang. This is the first book in the Radiant Emperor's duology. I will come back to that one. And Belladonna by Adeline Grace. I will come back to that one. So these top three, the first books in the series. Belladonna now has Foxglove released the second book. She Who Became the Sun, the second book is now released, and Vanessa Len's the second book is now released. So all of these three now need to no longer be up to date and need to travel over to here, making this series pile incredibly massive now. So yeah, a lot of work to be doing here. So let's make some progress on these series. So I can straight away take off these 4 books because I am going to be talking about these 4 series. So first of all, Rumblestar, this first book, I have now, I borrowed all the other ones from the library and I have now finished the Unmapped Chronicles. I read Crackledawn Dragon, which was the 4th and final book in the Unmapped Chronicles series. I loved this series. If you enjoy whimsical middle grade, you are going to have a fantastic time. Abby Elphinstone's writing is absolutely gorgeous. It feels like a warm hug. You are taken on this wonderful adventure. It feels really classic. It's a beautiful portal fantasy. You're given this kind of connection to different children in each of the stories. You follow different children, and the children, there's something they're struggling with, and they overcome it through this magical adventure in this magical world. Some journeys are easier than other journeys to kind of get behind the characters. Other characters take a little bit more warming up to. The 4th one was my favourite. I do have a soft spot in my heart for all of these books. Rumblestar is a fantastic start to the series. I'd say Jungledrop was the hardest one, but do stick with it because it does really pay off. I think the characters are just more difficult to warm to. Everdark was beautiful, and I thought that could possibly be my favourite because I got very emotional reading it. But the Crackledawn Dragon absolutely blew it out of the park. I had so many moments where I felt so emotional. You do, as it's the final one, it kind of wraps everything up, and you do kind of get hints of other characters that we have met before. But we have this amazing character called Mrs. Flickertint, who everyone needs in their life. She is a purple lizard who is wonderful and is so positive and gorgeous and lovely and just hilarious. There's 2 protagonists in the book, and both of them were gorgeous. Very different stories to be working through, very important stories to be working through, and they did. And then you have this magical land, you have this magical adventure, you have wonderful items. It's just absolutely gorgeous. I cannot praise the series highly enough and recommend that everyone should read it, should you love middle grade fantasy. The next series that I finished was, I read not only The Hollow Hills by Mary Stewart, but also the Last Enchantment, meaning I have now completed the Merlin Trilogy, which I have had in my house since 2021, if not 2020. So hooray for finally finishing this. These can now go back to Nata. She can have these back on her shelf now, which I'm sure she'll be thrilled about. I did enjoy these. It was very different to kind of other things I was reading. It was a lot more kind of like historical based. It really kind of like depicted that early medieval times, like pre-1000. So I think we're in like the 500. I think it was like 500 AD or 500 CE. Like Saxon times. You get talk of Saxons. So it's set in Britain. You get talk of Saxons. You get talk of Vikings. And just like the different kingdoms and trying to pull the country together. And there's the maps. I loved the use of the maps. They were very clear. So we have a great showing of the map, and all the places that are spoken about in the book are listed on the map. So when they talk about it, I can see where they mean. I can visually see where the characters need to go. And I find this very helpful because I'm a very visual person. I hate it when they have a place and they have a map in the book and the place is not on the map. So top marks for the maps in these books. Very low kind of fantasy. It's kind of more of a spiritual fantasy. It was really interesting. It's the character of Merlin that we follow through these books. It was very interesting to kind of see his story and his relationship with Arthur and how that all comes about. I thought it was a really interesting take on it. I found there was some misogyny in it, but just reflective of the time, and it did annoy me, but I was able to kind of move on and still enjoy the historic detail. Didn't find the misogyny as much in the final book, so that was definitely improvement. Had a really good time with these, so yes, I feel very accomplished for having read them. That was definitely the series that I wanted to finish this year. I needed to have finished this year. It's been hanging around for too long. Another series I feel very pleased that I have completed now is the Ember in the Ashes Quartet. I feel really pleased that I have managed to finish this. So it was just the one book that I needed to read to finish it off, so there was no excuses, but it is quite a big book and it's a very epic. It is such an epic series. It's a strong military fantasy. There's a very cruel world. We have more of the kind of like spiritual side and fantastical side, like that is kind of like set up a lot in Reaper at the Gates, and then all the payoff happens in this one. The characters just get absolutely put through the ringer. They do not get they don't get like moments of respite. There's so much heavy stuff they are dealing with, but within that you still get nice character moments when when kind of all the fighting kind of pauses and there's a lull in the action, and they just get to kind of like connect with each other about how they're processing everything, exploring the themes of pain, of accepting the consequences of your actions, the choices you've made, and how you continue to live with yourself, and how you continue to keep going through life when so much pain and hurt has happened to you. I really enjoyed the character arcs in here as well. I'm not going to talk about them too much because I don't want to spoil things for everyone, but I really did have a great time with the three protagonists in here, and kind of seeing where they started off in Ember in the Ashes and kind of then where they got to in A Sky Beyond the Storm. It's a really good YA fantasy. It feels very YA in an Ember in the Ashes, mainly because of it's more the world is not as expanded. It's sort of, you're aware of the world out there, but it's very much kind of more situational based, and it has tropes that I know a lot of people really enjoy. There are trials, there is like various love interests, there's a lot of teenage hormones, I suppose, for want of a better word, going around. So there were moments when I was just like, okay, in this, but generally like the world building was so fun, and there's a lot of setup in this story, and it's a great way of meeting these characters as they start out on their journey. But I definitely loved the second book, which I don't have because I've lent it to a friend at work. I've lent it to my friend Leia, and I'm really excited that she's going to be reading it. But A Torch Against the Night, the second book, was my favorite book. I just enjoyed how that story progressed. I enjoyed characters interacting with her, and I enjoyed being torn on my thoughts of characters and different struggles. Then my second favourite was definitely A Sky Beyond the Storm. I very much enjoyed, pardon me, how everything was rounded off and brought to a close. Sabatahir's storytelling, like she knew what she was doing with this. She knew exactly where she needed everything to go. She took all the different pieces, and there was a lot that she'd kind of put into place. She'd got a lot of plates spinning around everywhere, but it all kind of like pulled into place and came together. So I definitely feel these last two books, Reaper at the Gate and Sky Beyond the Storm, even Torch Against the Night, more, but definitely these last two, these start feeling more, to me, they start to feel more adult fantasy, because they really expand the world. So not only kind of the humans and like the geography of it, but they also kind of go more into the spiritual of it. So we really kind of get more expanded fantasy. And although you still have this really fast-paced YA feel to it, there's a lot more thematic things that are happening, which for me gives me more of an adult than a YA feeling. So I think this is a series which is a really great crossover. So if you're someone that reads YA and you'd really kind of like to try more adult fantasy, I think that Ember and the Ashes is a really great place to start. Do stick with Ember and the Ashes if you do not enjoy horny teenagers. It's mild. There were certain bits where I was like, okay, come on. But it's done very well. Like the chemistry is done well. There was just kind of a lot of it more focused on the book than suited my taste for this story, but it definitely kind of sorts itself out for the next one, I think. And by the last two books, it feels different. There is still elements of romance in here, but it feels different to the like the YA kind of buzz tropes, if that makes sense. And I think that's why a lot of people who go into this, you know, they love the YA tropes, and they're picking it up for those YA tropes, and then it kind of doesn't stay in that kind of zone. So I think that's why kind of like some people absolutely love the first book and then kind of peter off towards these two, whereas I felt differently. I think the first wasn't my least favorite. My least favorite was Reaper at the Gates, and that was purely because the tone of it needed to be a lot darker and heavier, and I missed the lightness that we'd had. So it's a very important book, Reaper of the Gates, and it definitely needs to happen, but I didn't find it as fun before, where there was still a lot of the series that I found fun. So it definitely, like, we really hit the darkness here, but the storytelling is so good and the world and everything really comes together, and I really enjoyed it. But yeah, it was a brilliant end to the series. I really enjoyed this series. Okay, another one that I feel really happy for completing, and I also read more than one book for this one as well. Oh, it's coming, pop. There we go. I read Battle of the Labyrinth, and I also read The Last Olympian, which are books 4 and 5 in Percy Jackson and the Olympians by Rick Riordan. So this is a middle grade fantasy series, and here we have all of my books. I can hold them all up now. Diddly-diddly-dee. Ta-da! Whoa, they're very wobbly. Here we go. So this series is now complete. I have now reread Percy Jackson and the Heroes of Olympus. Definitely took longer than it should have done. I'm just very greedy and I have so many reading plans. But this was, I felt very happy to, I definitely enjoyed being able to pick this up as kind of like a help for the Hob hangover that always happens for me. So knowing what I know in these stories and just these having such a more light-hearted tone really helped me kind of like get over that. This was so fun to kind of be back with Percy and to be reading these again. I hadn't read these, especially these last two. I hadn't read these in such a long time, and I think these two are probably my favourite ones. I do also have a soft spot for the Sea of Monsters because of a character that I love in that one. But these two I really enjoyed. I love the Battle of the Labyrinth because we kind of get all our favourites kind of back together going on a quest, and I also love the stories of the Labyrinth and all the links to kind of the Greek gods and things in that one. And also there is another character in here that I really enjoy, that they have a really good character arc in this one that makes me very happy. And everything is kind of pulled together in the Battle of the Labyrinth, and I really enjoyed this. It has a different feel to the other books. This is much more like preparing for the showdown, which all the books have been leading up for, and it really delivers on giving us backstory to certain events leading up to this moment, and also on all the battlefronts you have emotional connections going on and everyone kind of coming closer, and I really feel the series ended really well. I enjoy that you know, children can hold their parents accountable for things they don't necessarily agree with. And throughout this series, there was very much a kind of like, it wasn't clear-cut good versus evil. There was definitely much an idea of, we understood why some demigods felt annoyed about the current system and wanted change. So I think all of that was addressed really well. I just really love this series, and I am so hyped for the TV show coming out. Yay! Right, where am I putting all of these? You're going in there. And you are going over here. Marvellous. Just creating my book piles. And my final series was not one I'm taking off my big pile. So I've taken 4 off my big pile of series for now. But this one I started, so this is part of the I started this series, but I've also finished this series, and that is the Fitz and the Fool. That is out of order. How shocking. Let me just adjust. Here we go. It is the Fitz and the Fool trilogy by Robin Hobb, which is the final trilogy in the Realm of the Elderlings, which means I have now read the Realm of the Elderlings, which is mind-blowing. I love this series. This series was incredible. Like, this trilogy was, it was so fun to see this stage of Fitz's life. And it was so immersive. Like, each point felt really, you were very much in that moment, whether that was in a more of a happy place at the beginning, more of a kind of stressful political place, or adventure quest getting to the own goal. Like, you very much kind of felt like you were living and breathing this story, which is what I absolutely love from Hobb. It's so joyous to be with these characters, new characters that we meet. You absolutely take them to your heart, or you hate them. It's one way or the other. But thematically, what was kind of pulled together in the final book, Assassin's Fate, just really touched me. Just the whole concept of how we hold on to history, this kind of like cycle of pain, and breaking the cycle of pain and trying to kind of move forward with life, rather than this constant cycle of pain just going over and over again and kind of getting entrenched in hatred. I thought this was all handled so well, and it is incredible, and I cannot wait to reread this series. Okay, so that is 5 series read. So here are all the books. Hold on, they're coming. Here we go. So here are all the books that I've read for the final part of this year, to finish off these 5 series. There we go. No, missed 2. Hold on. But that is not enough books. I've read more than that. Here we go. Let's try that again. Bookstack. Oh, come on, Bookstack. Here we go. There we go. That's all the books that I've read. I forgot my Mary Stuart ones. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 books read to finish off 5 series. Okay, so you can all go over there. We don't need you again. Right. I'm now going to talk about some DNFs. So the first one, I have had a lovely time with the Brown sisters so far. I absolutely loved Chloe, Get a Life Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert, and I really enjoyed Take a Hint Danny Brown. They were lots of fun. I can't access Act Your Age Eve Brown unless I go out of my way to go and buy the book. But I am not being called to buy it at the moment. I'm really not in the mood for a contemporary romance. I'm really just excited to be getting into so much more fantasy. I have so many like contemporary middle grades, so many like YA contemporary books that I'm excited about reading. Romance is just not calling. I'm not a big romance reader anyway. I loved Get a Life Chloe Brown so much. I really just enjoyed that book. I fell in love with that relationship and with those 2 characters. Danny Brown, I had a fun time, but I just didn't fall in love with them the same way I did with Chloe. So I don't feel that I'm wanting to kind of go out of my way to find Eve Brown. I might never read Eve Brown because there's so many other books I'm more excited about. That's not because I think it's a bad book. I just don't feel a compulsion to kind of read that at the moment. And I don't want it kind of like hanging around on my list when I know I'm not going to tick it off, because I'm then like, I need to get that so I can tick it off. And it's like, no, do I though? Are there not other books that I actually want? So I'm removing Eve Brown. If I see her in the library, I might pick her up. If I suddenly get in the mood to get another one, I will. but I don't really want them hanging around on my TBR. They're more companion books anyway than like a series thing. So I've taken the Brown Sisters off my list of series. Another book that I'm taking off in a more direct way is the Locked Tomb series by Tamsin Muir. So if you saw my November if you saw my November wrap up for the first couple of weeks, you will know that I did not go on with this. If you have not seen that, I will link it here so you can check it out. But yeah, I didn't enjoy. I found I've got 68 pages in and I was not enjoying Harry the Ninth. I was pushing myself to read it. So then I skim read to see, will I regret it if I don't start? Is something going to happen that's going to draw me in? And I just found like I really wasn't drawn in. I wasn't having fun. There was a certain hole shape in this book that was stopping me from having fun, the way I'd had fun in the previous book, and I couldn't get that excitement. I didn't quite understand what the end game was, or what these characters were fighting for or rooting for, and I wasn't rooting for them, and I realised I don't have a connection to Harrow. So I'm gonna DNF the Locked Tomb series. It's not for me. I'm sorry, everyone. So Locked Tomb is gonna go back to the library, and I'm taking it off my list of series. So I'm now going to talk about series I'm up to date with. And I'm going to go back to that because I've also done that thing where I start series, but I'm technically up to date with them. So that's going to be fun. So I'm going to move some more books off these piles. So I have another 4 books that I'm taking off my pile of books here. So I am now up to date with Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn. So here we go, Legendborn and Bloodmarked. I'm up to date. There are no more books for me to read. I do not know when the next book of this Legendborn cycle is due out. I am probably not going to own it though, because I loved Legendborn, but the bits I loved about Legendborn, I didn't get the same things from Bloodmarked. So what I loved about Legendborn was I loved like finding out more about the magic system in kind of like a calmer way and a less like frantic running for danger way. And I enjoyed the kind of the mix of how the magic kind of reflected into our current world and the kind of social justice side of things. I enjoyed how grief was explored. I enjoyed like the slow creation of relationships. This book spent too much, I think, on, I suppose, exploring certain relationships in here and exploring more sexual tension. And there were some characters that we got to meet more of, but then I felt they kind of got put on the side and they were kind of more to prop up sort of the main triangle of this book than anything else. Certain other things came forward and were explored that was interesting, but I really wanted more exploration and kind of time with the 2 different magics. But obviously that wasn't the story that wanted to be told, so that's fine. So it just didn't quite align with the things that I loved about Legendborn. It didn't quite meet those expectations. There were a lot of like secondary characters in Legendborn that we didn't get in Bloodmarked that I would have really liked to. And I would like to have kind of had a little bit more of a consistent plot. It felt very much we were running around in Bloodmarked. I still want to keep reading. I want to know where this goes and kind of what happens. But I don't think I'll be buying the next one. So I still love Legendborn, and I can see myself rereading Legendborn for some of those certain moments in here. But I don't think I would reread Bloodmarked because I just didn't have as much fun. I just felt a bit irritated at points. So there we go, that's a shame, but still fun. There was still a lot to enjoy, and I think if you're reading this for the plot and if you're enjoying some of the YA tropes and things in here, then you may really enjoy it. But like the bits that I was loving kind of went there, so that was a shame. But I'm now up to date with the Legendborn cycle, so that's good. So I can pop that on my up to date pile. Boink. I'm also up to date with the Lizzie and Belle mysteries. This is the second book, Poison and Portraits by J.T. Williams. I love this book. This book was so much fun. I had a really good time with these characters again. And this one is told by Dido Bell rather than Lizzie Sancho like the first one was. And I really enjoyed kind of the friendship they had, how they explored society, and how they explored how the Black community were perceived in society, and how they explored family and strength and the community they have at Sancho's tea shop. And it was really well done. I really enjoyed this. I think I enjoy it more for the historical fiction side than the kind of mystery side of things, but it's still really delightful. I don't know if there's any more in the series. I'm keeping it on my up-to-date series because I really hope that there are more coming, but I don't know for certain if there will be. And another middle grade that I really enjoyed was Onyeka. This is the second book, Onyeka and the Rise of the Rebels. So I'm now up to date with this one. And this is by Tola Okaguru. And we pick up with Onyeka again and her friends and continue their adventures in Nigeria as they are trying to deal with having superpowers and kind of like what's going on in the wider world, and exploring having a better hold on their magic and kind of what it means for their future. So there was a lot of progress in kind of the wider sense of the story that was explored in this one, but there is still more to be had. So there is definitely the third book coming out, which is really exciting. Again, I think I did prefer the first one a bit more, just because there's a trope that I don't enjoy in here that was used. I can understand why it was used, and I can see that, but personally I just did not enjoy that as much. So that kind of just pulled me out of the story a little bit, but genuinely this was it gave you all the good feels and the found family that you got in the first one, plus some more things answered, but possibly more questions happening. So I'm very excited to see how the series progresses. Also, I love Onyeka, she's awesome. Another exciting series that I had so much fun with is I am now up to date with Her Majesty's Royal Coven. I read The Shadow Cabinet, the messiest drama ever, and I loved it. It was so messy. It was delightful. Utter chaos and carnage. So we pick up with our characters in this one where they left off, and we continue to have adventures of them using their witchy powers. The overarching difficulties that could be occurring are still kind of there. There is also a new threat and a different side of things that is explored. So that was really fun to see. I missed kind of the topic of the first one and the focus of the first one, but the second one was still really fun and really well done, and I think really important. I'm really keen to see what else is going to be explored in the third one